My new Harley Polster. I love it. Hey guys, it's Dave. I'm here tonight with my 2007 Sportster, and we're going to do a little project. The Sportster, which I bought used, has a Arlen Ness Big Sucker air intake and a set of Harley Screamin' Eagle Shorty pipes. So it's a stage 1 upgrade, but I don't think it ever had a tune. And if it did, it isn't a very good one. So what I did was I pulled out my spark plugs and took a look at them, and they show evidence of a bike that's running lean and possibly some detonation. There's little specks of ceramic and things like that on the plug. Just doesn't look good. So I put a new set of plugs in, ran for 500 miles, and they still look lean. So that's when I decided, I'm going to have this bike for a long time. I want it to run better, to not be lean, not get too hot, not have detonation. So I looked at a tuner. Getting a bike dynoed obviously is expensive, and there's some very expensive aftermarket tuners on the market, but I didn't want to spend too much money. So what I ended up doing was going with a FuelMoto Micro EFI tuner. And so that's this little bit of stuff down here. This thing has a little bit of weight to it. It does not feel cheap at all. You pull off the fuel injector connectors, and this goes in line with it. You use a posi tap to tap into the throttle position sensor. There's a ground wire, and there's a couple of, I forget exactly what they call these things, but they go on the O2 sensor wiring. And that's pretty much it. It comes pre-programmed from FuelMoto for my bike and the mods that are on my bike. So it should be pretty much install and go. So what I'm going to do tonight is get it installed. I've got to take off the seat, the battery cover, put it up on the lift, and so on. So I'm just going to make a video of how to do this, if anybody's wondering, and then do a little vlog of riding it and see how it goes. So that's the plan. Alright, so I have the seat off, and I'm looking at the battery area. I've taken the battery cover off. I've already taken out my maxi fuse. This little doohickey just pops right off. What I'm going to do is loosen the connector, or rather the strap that holds the battery in. Get that out of there. Because we need to route the tuner from under the seat towards the front of the bike. And it is tight. The connectors on this thing, these things are pretty big. They're not just going to pop under this tiny little area. So I'm just trying to buy myself a little bit of space. So take that out. I already have a relay in here from a horn upgrade that I did. So it is a little tight to begin with. I am going to need ultimately to get to the negative battery cable, the negative terminal, because that's where the ground wire has to get attached. So I'm just going to fiddle around with this a little bit and see if I can find myself some clearance to get the connectors through. As you can see, the battery is sticking out. What I did was I disconnected the negative battery cable, which is over on the other side, down here at where, it attaches to the engine or transmission, whatever that is. And then I was able to slide the battery out. You can see the negative terminal. This is where a ground wire is ultimately going to need to go. And now I have possibly enough room to get the connectors through. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. I just pull the battery out more. This is the strap that sits on top of the battery. So we need to push that down. And that's going to be the key to routing these connectors through. And these are big connectors, man. It's over an inch in size. And there's just a lot of stuff over here. I mean, this big, fat connector for the ECM, it's just really taking up a lot of room. so it is tight. This is the instructions should tell you right off the bat, just take the battery, you know, take it out or pull it out as far as I have it here. That would make sense because you have to take it out anyway. Far enough to get to this negative terminal. So, you know, if you're going to go to all that trouble at the end, they have that at the last step. You should just do it right there in the beginning, so you have room to work. Alright, slowly making progress. I routed the wiring up here a little bit. I loosened the bolts on the front of the gas tank, and I took out the bolt on the rear, and as you can see, I raised it up about an inch, and I put just a rubber hammer in there, buy myself some space. This is the disconnect for the fuel. You pull down, and then it pops out, which is actually easier to do before you raise it up, but I always do things the easy way. Okay, actually, I said that backwards. You push up and pull down. You get a tiny, tiny little bit of gas. Drop too. That's about it. Okay, so the purpose of doing that is the fuel injectors are tucked in there pretty good. So I need to get in there, get all that wiring, sorry for poor camera work, connected to those. This is going to be a little time consuming to do this right. So I'm just going to take my time and put it back. Alright, well, I made my first mistake and broke something. And that's just because of my own inexperience. The connector for the fuel injector, not a good thing to break. Broke a tab off of it. It's supposed to be a tab there where that red thing is. So, not happy about that. I managed to get it back together with a couple zip ties, and I'll probably look into a permanent repair. Hopefully I don't have to replace the whole wiring harness, but you know, that's live and learn. Now I'm going to do the rear one. I got it off without breaking it, fortunately, and so I'm going to connect that now. Alright guys, just want to show you where I'm at. I have the fuel injector connectors on. One thing that was not obvious, which I'll mention, is that the wiring, the electrical part of the fuel injector connector, it rotates. You can spin it around. Mine, well, I couldn't put the connector on initially. It was hitting the engine. And I was like, you know, why is that? And then I realized you can spin it. So you actually have to spin them so you can get them on cleanly. Those are all nice and tight, aside from the one that I got zip tied in the back. You know, hey, I've broken so many things in my life doing projects that nothing surprises me anymore, but it'll get fixed. Swinging around to the other side. If I can get this camera in a good spot. So this is a throttle position sensor. I printed the page out of the manual in color so I can see exactly what they're talking about. And it's pretty straightforward. There's a wire that is purple and gray, and that is when you have the connector rotated so that the clip is facing you. It's the connector on the left side. That's just how they have it in the manual. So what you do is you take the mod tap connector and you're going to unscrew it, and you're going to use the gray part that has the slot, and you're going to slide that onto the gray purple wire, which I can tell you right off the bat is a pretty thick wire. So let's see how that's going to go. Alright, that is pushed on pretty good. Now I'm going to take this mod tap connector, which has a little metal thing, and start spinning it on. Okay, it's in there. No sense me recording all this, me huffing and puffing and fumbling around. I'm just showing you the major steps. By the way, this ball's cut in half, which I used, well, I acquired to do some low speed practicing, but I never did use them yet. Makes a good lift for the gas tank. Okay, so that's on. We got to do the battery cable now. We're getting there. Progress. Fuel injector connectors are all done, routed where I want them. I installed the terminal on the negative battery and just pushed that back in. Now I need to lower the gas tank and reconnect the fuel line, connect the positive and negative cables. We are so close. I am running out of steam, folks. It's getting late and I'm tired. This is the connector for the front oxygen sensor. Comes out, pop it apart, take off the connector, and you put on this doohickey that they give you for, it replaces the oxygen sensors aren't used anymore. I'm sure the EPA loves that. There's a name for these things, I forget what it is. But it's in the book. O2 sensor connector optimizers. O2 optimizers. Alright, so that one's on. Zip tied to something else black. Not sure if you can see that, but it's right in here. So this wire is the harness. The wire I just came off of should be the O2 sensor. Sure seems like it. Alright, that pops right on there. Yes, it does. Zip tie that. Something black. Try and hide it a little more. I don't like doing all this aftermarket stuff. I like it the way Harley intended. But unfortunately, Harley has to go by rules. In this case, emissions. And if you want a better riding bike, you gotta break those rules. We're ready to put the seat on. Believe it or not, that is how it's going to sit. The seat isn't really bothering it. There's enough room. I'm very happy about that. So, back together. It's done. Wow, what a project. Took a while, partly because of stupid things on my bike that slowed me down, but hey, you know. So, it's 10 of 10. I'm going to take a little ride around my community and see what it's like.